All right, so I'm always trying to get you guys like the best view so you can see things from my perspective. I'm learning about like all these content creators and stuff when they say, like difficult to work around the camera or having a difficult time showing it from their perspective. I always kind of thought, well, it can't be that hard. Point the camera at what you're looking at. It really is more difficult than it seems. And if you don't believe me, give it a try. But what I've done here, this is a Hamskea Gen 2 third axis sight level, basically. Comes with this little piece that you kind of put in here. We won't be getting into that right now because we're focusing on the tune of the bow. But what I like using this for is to clamp on the string because it has this really nice turret level on top, and it makes it much more, I guess, accurate versus using something like this. So I used to use this. I still have it. Basically, the only level that I'll use, it comes with two, is this one right here, and that's because this one is off. And I verified that with multiple levels, including this one here. But there's opportunities for there to be defects in manufacturing, especially when you like insert plastic into plastic here. If I do use this one, basically what I'll do is I'll clip it on the string. Part of what I don't like about it is like if you actually click onto the string itself, it's kind of loose, so it's really hard to get that perfect. And so what I'll generally do is just kind of hold it up against the string and verify that my readings are true. It doesn't matter what I do, I'll get it level, with this one here, and every time this upper one will be off. So I just pretty much exclusively use this now. I'm going to take my phone off here and I'm going to show you guys that we're level. Basically what we're looking for is for the bow to be plumb in the bow vise. You can see things are nice and level. If I kind of try to get you, this one doesn't really matter because we're basically using this one, but getting it there in that circle is going to mean that your bow on this plane here, right? The string is perfectly plumb and level, and that's kind of what we're after. The reason that's important is because what we're going to do is I'm going to undo these little knots here, undo the clamp here on this, and it's going to cause my arrow rest to come up. This is a limb-driven rest, Hamskea Epsilon. But we want our rest to be up because we're going to nock an arrow on here. I'm actually going to cut this off because we're going to pretend that doesn't exist. And I'm going to tie on some new nocking points and a new D-loop. Even though this D-loop's pretty good, I just did this one a few weeks ago. I'm going to show you guys the process for making sure that we're shooting straight through the center of the Berger Button hole, and we're going to be basically 13/16 off the riser here, so going this away. But that's what you're going to want unless you're a left-handed shooter, in which case your riser is 180 degrees different from what mine is. So you'd want to be 13/16 off the riser that way. Some manufacturers are, like closer to 7/8, if not 7/8. Other ones may recommend something else entirely, but Matthews likes 13/16 off the riser, shooting through the center of the Berger Button hole. So we're going to verify that information is accurate. And what we're going to do that is I have a waypoint arrow level tool that we'll use. And we're going to nock an arrow, we're going to put it on there. And we're going to make sure that that's right where we say, or where we want it to be, to make sure the bow is right. So let me get set up for that. All right, so the battle continues with getting the right camera angle. I had basically had the bow pointing 90 degrees, basically clockwise from where it's pointing now. I had to turn it so you guys could kind of see the Berger Button hole and stuff here. I know it's difficult to see right now, but this is just going to work way better for filming. And so now what we're going to do, I'm going to get these series of knots out of here. All this is I leave a little extra material for basically my cord for my arrow rest, because you never know, you may need it for a D-loop or something. So I leave a little bit extra on here. And so all I do is just tie the same knots that you would tie for a D-loop, just repeating over and over and over and over again. There's barely enough there that if I needed to make, a D-loop, I could do so. And I'm going to need to, I think just for the sake of this video, to keep me from reaching to my pegboard all the time and grabbing tools, I'm just going to go ahead and grab my archer's tool here. And we're going to take this little clamp off, and you'll see the rest come up as soon as we don't have to take it off, but just basically loosen it up and allow the slack from this to work its way through. Come on now. Do your job. There we go. All right, so arrow rest is up. Let me go ahead and get an arrow on here real quick. Or not so quick. Okay, and I'm going to show you what we're looking for here. You can see there as soon as it focuses, my arrow's pretty much going through the center of the Berger Button hole. It looks like it could maybe be a little bit low, so we may put another click in there just to come up. That may just be a reference thing, because if I stand and I look at it, from what I see, it's perfectly level. So I'm not going to do much with the height, but we want to verify that this arrow, right, is this gap here is 13/16. And so the way that we do that is I'm going to pull out this waypoint arrow level tool, which is right there. I'll show you, kind of how to read this thing and stuff. And we're going to make sure it's level on the arrow. That's why there's a turret level on there. That way we get an accurate reading, because obviously the bubble's to one side or the other, that distance isn't going to be true. So we need to make sure it's level and 13/16 off the riser. I believe, if I remember correctly, I'm not quite 13/16 off the riser. I think I basically shimmed that away, or not shimmed it, but micro adjusted it away to broadhead, or to group broadheads with my field points. We're trying to avoid needing to do that because we just want the bow to be perfectly plumb and square, and we're going to see what arrow it likes to shoot the best. The way we're doing that obviously is with, I know what broadhead I want to shoot. We're going to basically manipulate carbon length until we get a perfectly flying arrow. And then my suspicion is that once I put those big, crazy, everybody says won't ever fly perfectly straight, tough head broadheads on there, if I'm getting perfect arrow flight, I shouldn't need to do anything with that rest. It should just group, because we're going to verify all that with a bear shaft, right? So it should just fly just perfect. So we're going to see if that actually, works out that way or not. That's the whole point of testing and doing stuff like this, to know for yourself. So I want to know, but it makes sense to me. So let's go ahead and get that set up. All right, so here's the tool. There's the bubble level. This is basically going to be oriented like this. These rulers and stuff I just kind of put out here so it'll fit in the packaging correctly. But we're going to take those knobs off. And what we're going to do, I'll give you like the crash course on this here. But once we get this bubble level completely centered in that circle, right, sitting like this perfectly, you put this on the arrow itself, right? Once we get that set perfectly, right here on this ruler, if it'll focus, do the hand trick thing here, right? Okay, so it's not really wanting to focus. It's probably because my finger's in front of the screen. Let's try this. Okay, so there you go. You can see right there 13/16, right, which is right there. And there's a little line that's there, and it's hard to make out, but it's right there above my thumbnail, or my fingernail there, right? And all you do is right here, you'll see there's this line, this white line going down the center here, okay? So we're going to make sure that them line up, and it's actually going to be oriented like this. But this is what we're after, is to get that reading right there. That 13/16 line going right through them white lines, with this sitting on top of the arrow like so, okay? This is barely going to be touching, right, the inside of the riser. And if we get that measurement, we're good. We're done. We can stop, right? But we want to make sure that we're getting that itself. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the camera after I set this on there and show you guys what that'll look like. So that's basically, going to be what we're after, except for we need this bubble to be level. So I'm going to do that right now. So the bubble is, obviously, right? The bubble is indicating that we're a little bit nock high. So that needs to actually kind of come down a little bit, my nocking point. But for left and right, which is ultimately what we're most concerned about for getting this reading, we can see that it's accurate, right? It's level. There you go. So you can see that 13/16 line. And then it's right below there where it says 13/16, that white line going down the center of the tool. We're further than 13/16 away from the riser. So we need to basically micro adjust the rest into the riser. Basically, these ham ski rests, so you've got one bolt that's right here that kind of goes through the rest, and if we loosen that, we're going to be able to do our adjustments right here on this knob. Okay, I'll zoom in and show that to you guys in a second, but we need to move the rest in, and so the only way to really do that is of course we need to loosen up the clamping pressure on this arrow rest itself to be able to do that correctly. And so basically what you just need to do is just get yourself a little stubby like this, and loosen this up. Doesn't take much. Okay, just them couple quick little turns are probably great. And then I know it's hard to explain, but I know basically I need to go clockwise on this knob in order to bring this in. So I'm just gonna keep turning this guy. I'm seeing this kind of shift, and then once I get this perfect, I will show you guys. So you can see, let me put my hand underneath this so you can see right there. I just kind of caused a shadow to be on there, didn't I? There's that line right there. If you look at the 13/16, that little faint line is going perfectly through the center of these two white hash marks that are on the actual tool itself. There's one there and then there's one below. So now we know we're 13/16 off the inside of the riser. So we're going to go ahead and tighten. This is the bolt that I was telling you about, the silver one here on top. We're going to tighten that back down. And this is the knob I was talking about here. This is basically for adjusting your windage, right, of the rest. This one up top is going to be your elevation, and the only way to adjust that one to get it loose is there's two bolts that are in here, two little silver ones that are there. You would have to loosen those if we needed to adjust the windage. Okay, yep, we're golden now. All right, perfect. So next up, we need to get the pitch basically of the arrow right, because right now the bubble is on the back side of the turret level. We need it to be there in the center, so we need to either bring the front up or basically put the nocking point down. When I set this on my lower one, I'm just completely like perfect. But that's not really the way that works when you come to draw, so we are just going to do it the right way. Let me get set up for that. Alright, so lighting is a good thing. I just found that out. Anyway, what I'm going to do here is, because when I really kind of push down on my nocking point here, I actually get this bubble to level out. You guys are just going to have to take my word for it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a line here with this mechanical pencil, because it's got a nice fine tip right here on my string, and we're going to be able to see, whoop, right there is my mark. That's where I know I need my upper nocking point to be. So now that I've got the arrow off there, just to kind of help things show up a little bit better for you guys on the camera end of things, I am going to dig out this here heckin' metallic silver Sharpie, which seems to be a common thing in everybody's archery videos. So if I use it, maybe that'll make, yeah, there we go, perfect. All right, you may not be able to see that on this camera with you guys being set so far away, so just to kind of show you, nice silver mark right there on my string. So what we're going to do, because that kind of bled down a little bit, when I tie on my nocking point, let me get that to focus. When I tie on my nocking point, I'm not going to have it come all the way to the bottom, basically, of that mark. I'm going to leave a little bit of that peeking through. I'm just going to cut this stuff off here right now. And then I'm going to go over to the press because it makes it a little easier to just have it there. But I'm going to go over to the press. We're going to tie on a couple new nocking points, and we're also going to tie on a new D-loop. And then the last thing we need to do is we need to make sure my cam lean is good. So, all right, so I'm going to show you guys another trick just because I'm in a trick showing mode. Basically, you don't need this guy. You don't need that. It is helpful for getting your 13/16 off the riser. But what you can also do, and you can pick these up at really any frickin' Harbor Freight. They're cheap. They're not. Sometimes they're not the most accurate. You can tell these ones have been through the ringer, but you get yourself a set of calipers here. These work just fine. Basically, all you do is you turn it on, and you can use this side here to get your 13/16. Yeah, so there's millimeters, inch millimeters. You're going to have to do a conversion because it gives you a decimal point, right? 0.541. I can't remember what 13/16 is. But basically, you go on Google and just search like 13/16 as a decimal, and it'll tell you what that reading needs to be. You can measure it off the riser to the inside of your arrow, basically. More specifically through the center of your arrow. A great way to do that is if you know what your outer diameter of your arrow is. So these ones here, these Sirius Archery 250 spines, they're 0.238. You divide that by half, okay? So you get 0.119. I'm really good at math, I guess, today. Anyway, you would subtract that 0.119 from that decimal point of 13/16. You would bring your arrow rest up, you would put this on the string, and you would measure with your calipers to get that number. When you got that number, you're good, okay? You'll probably pick up a set of these for like, I don't know, I've had these ones for a while. Can't be any more than 20 bucks. Another thing that you can do, right, to make sure you're going through the center of your Berger button hole is if you have a press or any kind of vise, as long as you know that this is level, okay? This has to be level, going this way. It has to be, because if your bow is tilted one direction, your arrow is not going to sit perfectly plumb. It's going to sit like this on the string, right? In relation to your riser. But you can knock your arrow, right, on your string, and you can let gravity take its course, okay? When gravity takes its course, you can slide the arrow one way or the other, and then you can adjust your arrow rest, right, till it just barely touches the arrow. Once you've done that, you've got it squared. You're good. You're done. I mean, just call it where that is. Anyway, we went the hard way of doing this because sometimes demonstration works a little bit better this way. But I can kind of show you what I'm talking about here. I don't even know if this, I know how I can find out. I don't even know if this bow is going to be level in this vise. That's pretty close. Let me see, I'm looking for a level point here on here. Okay, yeah, so we're really, really, really close. So let me just show you. Okay. You can see right here, my arrow, right, going through the Berger button hole. We know that this is a little bit high when it's on my upper nocking point. We'll verify that right there. Okay, you see that? So we know if we go low on it here, right, up against the arrow rest, that it's going to be substantially closer. Okay? Just right there, just like that. Let me get in frame with you there. There it is. Okay? That's what you're looking for. You're done. All you would do is you would move your arrow rest either towards or away from the arrow, depending upon if it's canted out like this, okay? You're going to want to bring your rest down to bring the arrow in. If the arrow is not touching your rest, but is perfectly plumb through that hole, you would want to bring your rest into the arrow without taking it off of this track like this, okay? That's bad. All right, so now that we've talked about that, okay, looks like you can see. We're going to cut this off. We're going to start over. I've got my silver Sharpie mark on there. I'm probably going to carry that around so you guys can maybe see it from your side. we're going to tie on some nocking points and then a new D-loop. So let me collect some material and stay tuned. All right, so I've got everything going just to kind of speed this process up a little bit. I've got my piece of D-loop material here, and we're going to go ahead and fuzz this end out. Now, you really want to fuzz your D-loops out, and I'm going to tell you why, okay? When you go to dress this up, right, this is going to be good enough for now because we're probably going to end up cutting that end off anyway. But you just don't want to, when you're setting your D-loop, you do not want this to pull through. I've had it happen before, and if that pulls through, breaks, detaches, something like that, it's almost like blowing your bow up if you don't have an arrow nocked, which, to be fair, you should probably always have anyway, because it's not good when that happens. So I've melted kind of one end. We're going to leave a little bit of material there when we tie our knot, and before we really cinch it down, we're going to melt that up and make it so it can't go anywhere because we want these knots to be really tight. Also, what I have here is a little bit of serving material, okay? And I'll show you what I do. So we've got our marks on here. You want to be careful not to cut your serving or your string, but we're going to go ahead and cut these off. Okay, D-loop gone. Now, our nocking points, we're going to get rid of them too. Now, this is where you need to be careful. Your blade, if you look at it, like from this angle here, if you're keeping this blade completely flat because it's tapered on both ends, if it's completely flat, you're pretty much guaranteed not to cut your serving material. But if you leave it flat on there, don't put any pressure towards the tip, so don't point the actual sharp end into the string. But if you just kind of saw back and forth a little bit, okay, a little bit at a time. Don't be in a hurry to do this because that's when you end up cutting your serving and then you're really upset at yourself because you have to reserve it or get a new set of strings if you don't have the ability to reserve. Maybe we'll do a reserving video because that's kind of fun. And a lot of people think just because their serving separates that they need to spend $160 or $200 depending upon what string manufacturer you go with to buy new strings. Yeah, you don't need to. Sorry, save your hard-earned cash. It's much cheaper to buy a spool of serving material in 16 or 14 thousandths, whatever it is that you want for nock fit, and reserve that center serving sometimes. It needs to happen, or your end servings. You can use just a regular bench vise to put some tension on your string. You take your string off. I weld, so I have a welder. What I did for quite a while before I got my serving stand was just had a couple of nails that I had welded onto my vise, and then I would extend my vise out till it put tension on the string. You can also do it on your bow vise, even if you have a bow vise. You just need to have something small to loop the string onto. All right, now we're gonna get this off here. Come on now. I've never had this much difficulty trying to get nocking points off a string. It's because it's on camera. I apparently tied those knots really well. Which is good, because you don't want your nocking points to move. Alright, perfect. Alright, so here's what we're going to do. What I like doing... Oops, I'm pulling my light. Oops, wrong drawer. Give me a second. What I like doing is I like grabbing, oh no, I was on the right side, a little bit of the cool hot melt, this stuff right here, okay? I'm going to show you why I like using this. But you take this and you pull your serving material through it a couple times, okay? What that's going to do is it's going to get just a small amount of this cool melt on there, and there's a purpose for that. One, it'll help you tie the knot. Two, it kind of holds it in place after you tie it. But three, we're going to introduce a little bit of heat on there, and it's going to cause that cool melt to actually kind of melt into your serving with your anchor point knots that we're going to tie. And it'll really just kind of help it lock down, hold in place, and it's not so much as you've seen where you have like a crazy ton of difficulty getting it off when you need to tie them on again. But basically, I have my silver Sharpie mark. I'm going to carry that over to the top. You guys probably won't be able to see it, but we're going to go right there, okay? Maybe I should have done black, but we're going to start with our upper, okay? And so all I do is I find about that midway point on the string here, or the serving material, and I'm just going to do one basic, just like how you start with tying your shoes. Just one basic knot, okay? And we're going to move that right up against our line there on the silver Sharpie. Make sure you don't go beyond it. And you're going to pull it tight, okay? Now, because we started at the bottom of our silver Sharpie mark, we're going to tie knots up, okay? So now on the other opposite side of the string, we're going to do that same knot again, just one. You can do two if you want to, but sometimes it makes it a little bit bigger, and I'm not a fan of that. I'll show you why it's not really a big deal here in a minute, okay? We've done that, okay? Now we're going to do this again on the top side. I do this between 3 and 5 times, usually, you know, probably closer to 3. It just depends upon how it looks. I'm probably going to do 4 on this one, and then so this will be our 4th time tying this. So we did one on top, one below. We just did one on top again. So we're going to do another one below. Now here's where it gets different. On your final knot, instead of just pulling one string through the loop one time, I'm going to do it a second time, and I'm going to show you why. Okay, when you pull this, you're going to keep the strands underneath until right up about where it starts to touch the string, and then you're going to bring them above and cross them. Don't loop, don't tie them through, just cross them and pull. Okay, what that's done is it's allowed those braids or those twists that you put to go around the string. If you pull it just down below, you see how these like to kind of sit on top. If we pull them the opposite way, they both kind of push themselves up. So if you leave them on the underside, you're going to have like this kind of fat, stupid looking little knot on there. But we need to terminate this. So underneath, again, even though we just did that, you're just going to do another single knot, okay? This time you're going to leave both strands underneath, and you're going to pull them. And that's just locked that in onto itself. That's all you need to do. You're done. So leave probably like 1/8 of an inch when you cut it off, and cut it off. Now this is where you would want to put one of the nocks that you're planning on shooting on there. I actually have a little bit of a cheat code that I like to use. Let me grab it, and I'll take the phone off and I'll show you what I'm going to do. Alright, so when I hunt, I use these. These are halo nocks. They're 166. Small ones, obviously the Sirius Orion's a micro diameter arrow. When I'm using just my target arrows, I like using these. These are from Black Eagle, but they're basically just a victory nock. The diameters of these, okay, this direction, this one is marginally thinner than the halo nocks that I hunt with. However, these fat bastards here, okay, so let me hold that up so you can see it. These are Luminox, all right? And what I like using for these, and it's a good thing I have the calipers out to kind of show you, and just knock the razor blade down. But I'm going to show you here. Where the arrow goes through the nock, okay, that is right there. That's where the arrow goes through, or the string, okay? 208. Just for comparison, these nocks that I end up shooting, these halos, .168. So we're talking about basically 4/100ths of an inch. Okay, doesn't seem like much. It's enough to give me just that perfect nock fit, or spacing, I should say, between my nocking points. Another reason I don't shoot these anymore is, I'm going to show you. That's a fair amount of nock pinch that's on there, on the string. These guys, They're like nowhere near as bad. It probably doesn't come through that great on there. Let me go ahead and turn this off. The other thing I like about these is you just kind of hold the tab on the side and then knock them again and they come off. These pin nocks are what I like to shoot, but man, they are just so smooth on and off that string. Anyway, so what we're going to use is we're going to use this Luminock basically as a spacer for my upper and lower nocking points. So I just basically clip that on there, and I'm going to tie basically up against that nock, but I'm going to tie away from it, doing the same thing we just did. So find that halfway point, put one single knot on there, and we are going to pull her tight. Okay, and we're going to do one below. We're going to do 4, just like we did on the upper. So 2, some people will, this is 3 by the way, some people will only use one nocking point, some people won't use them at all. I prefer using them for the trick that I'm going to show you with the cool melt that we put on there, just because I know, this is number 4, I know that once these are on there, they're not sliding on me. I don't have to worry about nock pinch. You know, consistency and repeatability in archery is kind of, oops, I forgot to put that second loop through there. I'm talking about other things other than what I'm focusing on. I'm human, don't judge me. But anyway, the consistency and repeatability in archery is everything. So, you know, even if you're doing it entirely wrong, as long as you're doing it the same every time, you're gonna be better. Obviously, do things the right way. I'm not advocating for you to, you know, do stupid stuff. You know, you should work on, you know, your ability to shoot your bow. You should practice with it. But if you're constantly going through and changing things and you're wondering why, you know, like you're not getting the results you were looking for, why don't you just stick with one thing and kind of rock with it? Is what I would say to you. You know, I'm one of the people that I always like to kind of, you know, tinker and you know, this kind of stuff I enjoy doing. Okay, so we did 2 loops through there. This is our 4th knot, and then we cinched it down. So now we're going to tie off the terminal knot just by putting 1 loop through, or 1 tag in through the loop, and just terminate that and pull that tight. Anyway, I'm the kind of guy that likes, you know, kind of tinkering and changing things up. I don't know if there's a better option out there, which is ultimately why we're doing this. I'm going to show you. I'm going to take this off. Okay, and I'm going to put my regular nocks on there. And what you'll see here, let me take this off so I can show you. What you'll see here, you just have just that perfect amount of travel there. Now that's going to make sure that we don't ever have nock pinch. Okay. I would say if I had to approximate that, probably, you know, like a little more than a 1/16 of an inch, an 1/8 maybe. I think that's going to do just perfect. So we'll go ahead and pull that off. We'll put you guys back up here, and I'll show you how we finish this off. Anyway, I'm the kind of guy I like to, you know, kind of tinker and change things up. You don't know if there's a better option out there, and you won't know unless you are open-minded and are, you know, okay to find out for yourself. I don't want to shoot what everybody else shoots just because they say it shoots better or it's made them more successful. I want to know what works best for me. You know, and it goes back to the heavy versus light arrow argument. Everybody, for some reason, is under, you know, this misconception that Doc Ashby said you can't kill animals unless you're shooting a 650 grain arrow or something. I think that's ridiculous. You know, you should, you know, maybe read. That's the heavy bone threshold, but I digress. Anyway, we're going to melt these ends down. So we're just going to touch that with a little bit of light, and we're going to do this one. Okay, perfect. And now we're going to roll the string to the other side, and we're going to do the other ones. Okay, And perfect. All right, so now is here where you need to be careful, okay? There is such a thing as too much, but this blade here, we're gonna kind of heat up this one end, and I'm gonna kind of press it on these nocking points. And what that's gonna do is this cool melt stuff that is all over the string, it's gonna kind of help it melt together and hold on to the servings. So you don't want to do a whole hell of a lot, right? You don't want this thing glowing red hot or anything. Just getting it just hot enough to introduce some heat to that is going to have a world of difference for you. And what you're going to notice when you do this is normally I use a torch for this. It's a lot quicker. But your serving material here is going to get kind of shiny or glossy looking. It's not going to quite have that matte appearance. And that's kind of, that's what you're after. Let me just grab this torch over here. That's what you're going to be after. Using a lighter leaves like a black sooty kind of an appearance on your blade, and I just don't want to put that on there. And so, like I said, just, going to kind of touch it on there a little bit. It's enough to introduce some heat into that cool melt. If you start feeling the blade getting hot, you've put too much heat in there. So use your brainstem with stuff like this. Anyway, and that's all we're going to do. These are pretty much, I feel comfortable saying I've never had one slip on me when doing this, so that's obviously a good thing. And so all we really have left now is to tie on our D-loop. And we'll actually do it like this. You create a loop kind of like this, okay? And then you just pull both these ends through there. Great way to start your D-loop on one end, whether it's upper or lower. The one thing that is important is the actual section of D-loop. Make sure if you're starting on the upper side that it runs to the lower, because you're basically, you don't need to make your D-loop full of a bunch of material. You just don't need that. At the end of the day, do you. If it makes you happy to have a nice fat D-loop, then that's fine. I like a tighter, cleaner looking D-loop. So we will go ahead, and what I like doing here is I kind of like pinching in on the loop itself while kind of working that material down towards itself. And here's where I will grab 2 sets of pliers. I like these bent needle nose, okay, and D-loop pliers. But all I'm really gonna do is for this first one, because we've kind of gotten it, kind of ish tight, but grab both of these ends and just pull them both together. Any little tension that you take out of this thing now, or slack, is only gonna help you get a tighter D-loop once we tie the opposite side. And kind of make sure that this is kind of somewhat oriented with your peep. Now, let me just bring this over and show you something. As I stand here, you can see that my loop goes around towards the back side of the string, right? Okay. When we tie the other end, you're not going to be able to see me, but we want to tie towards this side. We want to come in front of the string. From your guys' perspective, it's going to be on the back side. Let me just see if I can do this one-handed. I probably can't. But we're going to bring this around through. Yeah, I need to set my phone down. I'm not going to get this anywhere near tight enough. But basically, you're gonna tie this on kind of like this, like cross over the string is what I like doing, because you're going to have this loop on the one side, right? And then you're going to have a loop on the other side. I'll show you once I get it tied and explain it to you. But it kind of helps to level things out and keep it from sliding around, in my experience, okay? Your experience may be different. This is just what I like doing, and at the end of the day, I'm the one shooting the bow, so I don't really give too much of a... I'm not going to lose much sleep over what your thoughts are, I guess. I'm just trying to be helpful and show you guys kind of my process, primarily just to verify that because I plan on sharing my experience with these, you know, this new arrow setup. I'm trying to remove opportunity for argument, right? I know it's always going to happen anyways, but I don't want somebody to say, well, your bow wasn't tuned or it wasn't in time, and so therefore this is inaccurate and invalid. Because, you know, if you see all this going on here, you're going to know that I spent the time doing this, showing you guys on camera kind of my process, so you're going to know that it is in fact in tune and in time. So I'm going to show you what I was talking about here. So this loop comes around the back side here, but here it's on the front side, right? So if we look down the string, you can see it kind of crosses from one side to the other, and in line with my peep, which is ultimately kind of what we're after. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull all of the tension, the slack out of here as much as possible. And I'm going to keep dressing this knot around, and I want this to be tight because once I set that in there, this is going to stretch and it's going to bind that knot together. And you're going to wind up with length out of there than what you thought you would anyway. All nice and tight like that. And then what we're going to do, we're going to cut this, these tag ends back, okay? Leave yourself like 3/16 to 1/4, because you're really going to fuzz this out quite a ways. Okay, and now we fuzz it out. Get fuzzy. If I remember right, Get Fuzzy was a comic book strip in the newspaper. I think it had like a cat or something in it. All right, and now you know this process. I'm sure you've watched countless YouTube videos on this. Let's go ahead and get this melted down. I like to let that run just a little bit and then extinguish it with the metal side here of the lighter, because, you know, there's no point in burning yourself by using your fingertip. And what you'll be left with is a nice, fat, flat spot for your D-loop to really kind of anchor it in position. Okay, see that? Like so. And now I'm just going to stick my needle nose in here, and I'm going to expand this until I can get the top part of these D-loop pliers in there. Okay, focus. There you go. Stick that part in there, and then you open these up, and it really kind of sets your knot in, or your knot to. It's allergy season for me around here. Right now it's May 24th. So all the cottonwoods and stuff around here are sending out their nonsense. Kind of open these up a little bit, right? You don't have to be super aggressive with it because they kind of slip. Then you're going to stick the tip of these, okay? I maybe needed to open that up a little bit more. This is good. I like a nice super tight D-loop, so there we go. That'll give me what I'm after. Oh yeah, perfect. And now we just grink. There she is. One perfectly tied D-loop. Nice tight D-loop. Okay. See that? Nice and tight. And no knock pinch. There you have it. So now what I'll do is we need to check cam lean.